Welcome to the deep dive. Ever notice how companies these days aren't just expected to make money? They've also got to be, ethical and sustainable. And that's not just a bonus anymore. It feels like the baseline.
It really does. The pressure's on.
So today we're taking a deep dive into supply chain due diligence.
Yeah, CDD, yeah. It's a big one.
Our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack what this supply chain due diligence actually means. Why has it become so vital?
Yeah, and how companies are doing it.
Exactly. And, what all these new regulations mean for everyone. Think of it as your shortcut to understanding a pretty massive shift in global business.
And we've pulled from a really comprehensive range of sources for this deep dive. I mean, we're talking everything from foundational international frameworks like the UN Guiding Principles, OECD guidelines.
The big ones.
Right, and specific governmental acts like Germany's new Supply Chain Due Diligence Act, plus practical guides, industry insights. It gives us a really holistic view, I think.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the big question then. What exactly is supply chain due diligence?
Okay, so at its core, SCDD is a systematic, ongoing process. It's how companies proactively identify, assess, and then, address environmental and human rights impacts.
Right, impacts within their own operations and their supply chain.
Exactly. It's really risk management, but like you said, with a conscience.
And how did this evolve? Because it feels newer, or at least more prominent now.
Well, what's fascinating here is how it started. Originally, the focus was heavily on human rights due diligence, HRDD.
Okay.
And that was largely shaped by those UN principles and the OECD guidelines we mentioned. They laid out a clear path for businesses to respect human rights.
But it's broader now.
Definitely. Now, the scope has absolutely broadened to explicitly include environmental impacts, which is crucial, really, recognizing how intertwined these issues often are.
Right. So for businesses listening, what does this actually mean for them day to day? Why has this gone from maybe a nice to have to an absolute necessity?
Well, we're seeing several really powerful drivers at play.
Like what?
First, it's about minimizing risks. Protecting against deforestation, ecosystem destruction, human rights abuses, things that can have massive financial and operational repercussions.
Okay, that makes sense. Risk avoidance.
Second, it's about meeting expectations. Demands from consumers who want ethical products, investors demanding responsible practices.
And NGOs keeping watch.
And civil society keeping a sharp eye. Exactly. Third, and this is critical, it's about reputation protection. Nobody wants the bad press or legal action that comes with scandals.
For sure. That can sink a company.
And finally, interestingly, by digging deep and addressing problems proactively, companies often find they actually improve efficiency and cut costs.
Oh, that's interesting. So it can be a strategic advantage, too.
Potentially, yes. Turning a potential burden into something positive.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's not just about good practice anymore, is it?
No, not at all. Due diligence is rapidly moving beyond just voluntary frameworks. It's being hard-coded into legal requirements.
Like actual laws.
Yes. We're already seeing this with significant proposals like the European Union's Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, the CSDDD.
Right, I've heard about that one.
And the German Supply Chain Due Diligence Act, which we could definitely unpack in more detail soon. So it's becoming a legal obligation, not just a moral one.
Wow. Okay. This all sounds like a massive undertaking, though. But I guess there's a framework.
There is, yeah. The good news is there's a widely recognized framework guiding companies. Leading principles from the UN, the OECD, and also the accountability framework, AFI, for short.
Right, AFI.
Okay, they really lay out a blueprint, typically involving 5 core elements. It's like a practical roadmap for responsible business.
All right, let's break that down. What's step 1?
Okay, the first step in this blueprint is all about embedding responsible business conduct.
So not just talk, but action baked in.
Exactly. Companies don't just say they care. They bake clear policies right into their management systems.
Like what kind of policies?
For instance, commitments to deforestation-free and conversion-free supply chains. That means clear cutoff dates, definitions for what counts as a forest.
Got it. And human rights, too.
Absolutely. Respecting fundamental human rights, like those of indigenous peoples and local communities. And that crucially includes their right to free, prior, and informed consent, FPIC.
FPIC, meaning they have to agree before projects affect their land.
Precisely. And of course, upholding worker rights, in line with international labor standards.
And there was something about grievances.
Yes. A truly effective system also includes setting up accessible grievance mechanisms so anyone affected, internally or externally, can actually raise concerns.
Okay, so embed the policies. What's next? Element 2.
Right. Once those policies are set, the next critical element is identifying, assessing, and prioritizing risks.
So finding out where the problems might be.
Exactly. And this isn't just guesswork. It involves really digging into your own operations and supply base, combining that info with data about the risk profiles of specific suppliers, the regions they operate in.
Sounds data intensive.
It can be. And what's absolutely fundamental here is supply chain mapping and traceability.
Knowing who your suppliers are.
You can't manage risks you don't know exist.
Yeah.
So understanding exactly who your suppliers are, even going several tiers deep down the chain, is paramount. It's often a huge challenge, but essential.
Okay, map the chain, find the risks. Then what? Element 3 must be doing something about them.
You got it. The third element, designing and implementing strategies to address those risks.
And I guess that depends on where you sit in the chain.
Naturally, yeah. The actions will vary. If you're an upstream company, maybe owning or managing land, it's about responsible land acquisition and management practices.
And for downstream buyers, like retailers.
For them, it's more about robust supplier management systems. And, a key insight from the sources is that engaging with suppliers to fix issues is often preferred over just cutting them off immediately.
So work with them first.
Yeah, engagement over divestment, at least initially. Though, of course, if a supplier consistently fails to comply, disengagement might become necessary.
And what about past problems?
Good point. This element also emphasizes the vital importance of remediation for any past environmental or human rights harms. It's not just about the future, it's about addressing what's already happened.
Right, making amends. Okay, element 4.
Element 4, tracking implementation and performance.
Measuring if it's actually working.
Precisely. You can have all the policies and strategies in the world, but if you're not measuring progress, how do you know?
True.
So this involves robust monitoring, verification of environmental and social outcomes throughout the supply chain, often including independent third-party verification to ensure credibility.
Makes sense. And the last one, number 5.
And finally, the fifth element is communicating about performance. Transparency.
Reporting on it all.
Exactly. Credible and transparent reporting. Companies need to be clear about their metrics, what information they're publicly disclosing, how they're making their claims credible. Aligning with leading reporting standards helps here.
So everyone can see what's going on.
Right. It builds trust. And, it's worth emphasizing something here.
Yeah.
Sometimes some environmental or human rights impacts are just too big for one company to tackle alone.
Right. Systemic issues.
Exactly. So effective prevention and mitigation often require companies to step beyond their direct operations. That means collaborating at landscape and sectoral levels, partnering with other organizations.
Working together.
Yeah, recognizing that these collective efforts are actually integral to a truly robust due diligence process. It's a shift from isolated action to collective responsibility.
That sounds incredibly comprehensive. And I can almost hear listeners thinking, okay, that's the theory, but how do companies actually make this practical? Especially with potentially thousands of suppliers globally?
That's a really crucial question. And the source material suggests a smart approach. Think breadth and depth.
Breadth and depth. Explain that.
Okay, so breadth means taking reasonable steps to understand your entire supply chain, basically. Knowing who your suppliers are, where they operate, getting that basic map.
A big picture.
Right. Then the depth comes in by focusing your most intensive due diligence efforts, the really deep dives on the residual risk. That means focusing on your most critical or highest risk suppliers.
And those aren't always your direct tier 1 suppliers.
Not necessarily. They might be what some call primary suppliers, maybe they're material to your business, or pose significant environmental and social risks, even if they're a few steps removed in the chain.
Okay, so it sounds like that supply chain mapping really is that fundamental first step, just knowing who's in your chain.
It really is.
Yeah.
Even if it's a massive challenge for large organizations, that's where it all begins.
And then how do you prioritize from there?
Well, building on that mapping, it's about establishing a reasonable and scalable risk assessment process.
Okay.
This involves combining sort of inherent risk factors like a supplier's location, the nature of their activity, do they use hazardous materials, do they employ migrant labor, things like that. Combine those with their importance to your business. Like how much do you spend with them? How critical are they to your operations?
So you layer the risk factors with business importance.
Exactly. And that allows companies to logically narrow down their focus from maybe thousands of potential suppliers to a more manageable, high-priority group for that deeper dive.
Got it. And it's important to remember, I guess, that due diligence itself is pretty multifaceted, right? We focus a lot on human rights and environment.
We have, because they're central to SCDD. But you're right. The sources highlight that a truly robust program incorporates various types. There's financial due diligence, looking at a company's economic health.
Standard business practice.
Right. Legal due diligence, checking contracts, compliance, and then the environmental and social due diligence we've been discussing, examining practices against laws, labor rights, working conditions.
So you need that holistic view.
A holistic view really is key, yeah.
Okay. Speaking of laws, let's maybe zoom in on a concrete example. You mentioned the German Supply Chain Due Diligence Act earlier,
The Lieferkettengesetz, yes, or SCDDA for short.
Right. What's the core idea there?
Well, its core purpose is to make German organizations legally accountable for respecting human rights and addressing environmental risks throughout their global supply chains.
So legally binding.
Legally binding.
Okay.
It specifically mandates monitoring and action within a company's own operations and with their direct suppliers, all the way from raw material extraction to final delivery.
And indirect suppliers, further down the chain.
Now, here's a crucial point. If an organization becomes aware of a possible violation by an indirect supplier, they are immediately required to conduct a risk analysis of that suspected violation and take action.
So you can't just ignore problems further down if you know about them.
Exactly. It extends the responsibility conditionally.
So who's actually covered by this law in Germany?
It rolled out in phases. From January 2023, it applied to the bigger companies' enterprises in Germany with more than 3,000 employees.
Okay.
Then, from January 2024, just recently, its scope broadened significantly to include organizations with over 1,000 employees.
Wow, that builds in a lot more companies.
A huge expansion of direct legal responsibility, yeah.
And this must have ripple effects, right?
Absolutely. This leads to a really profound insight the sources mention, the cascading effect.
Cascading effect.
Yeah, even small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, that aren't directly covered by the law will absolutely feel the impact.
How so?
Because those larger firms that are subject to the SCDDA will inevitably have to pass down their due diligence obligations to their own suppliers to comply. And those suppliers often include SMEs.
So the big companies push the requirements down the chain.
Exactly. It's creating this domino effect of accountability. It pulls everyone in, indirectly at least.
And what happens if companies don't comply? What are the teeth in this law?
They're pretty serious. We're talking substantial monetary penalties, potentially up to 8 million euros.
Wow.
Or even 2% of a large company's global annual turnover if their turnover exceeds 400 million euros.
That's significant money.
Very. And beyond the fines, violating companies can be excluded from winning public contracts in Germany for up to 3 years.
Ouch, that hurts.
It does. Plus, trade unions and NGOs are actually granted the authority to conduct litigation on behalf of affected parties. So there's a legal challenge aspect too.
Okay, so real consequences. What specific risks does it cover? You mentioned human rights and environment.
Yes, and the Act is quite specific. It lists human rights risks like the employment of children under 15 or under 18 for certain hazardous work, forced labor, disregard of workplace safety, discrimination.
The big ones.
The core labor rights, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And on the environmental side, it explicitly links risks to international conventions, like the Minamata Convention on Mercury, the Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants, and the Basel Convention on Hazardous Waste.
So it ties into existing international environmental law.
Exactly. It's not just vague environmental risks. It's tied to specific internationally recognized protections.
Very concrete. Okay. And speaking of protections, we've covered human rights, environment, absolutely crucial. But, in our super interconnected world, what about risks from, unexpected corners, our digital supply chain, maybe?
That's a great pivot, actually, because what's fascinating here is how the definition of supply chain risk itself has rapidly expanded. Well, due diligence isn't just about ethical sourcing and environmental impact anymore. It's also profoundly about operational resilience. And the source material really highlights cybersecurity as a pressing and increasingly critical area for due diligence.
Yeah, cybersecurity. That makes sense. It feels like every other week there's a new breach traced back to a supplier or vendor.
Exactly. And the examples are truly chilling. They show how a vulnerability in just one link can shatter an entire chain.
Like what? Any specific cases mentioned?
Yeah, think about the 2020 SolarWinds breach. Attackers exploited software updates.
I remember that one. Huge.
Huge. Affected 18,000 customers, including U.S. government agencies. Or the 2017 NotPetya ransomware attack. Started in Ukrainian CAC software, but became a global nightmare, disrupting businesses, ports, even hospitals.
Just cascading failure.
Precisely. And let's not forget the 2013 Target breach. Remember that? Hackers got customer credit card details by exploiting credentials stolen from, get this, an HVAC vendor.
An air conditioning company.
Seriously. These incidents just vividly illustrate the cascading dangers lurking within these interconnected digital supply chains.
So how do you apply due diligence to that? What does cybersecurity due diligence look like for suppliers?
Well, it involves several key aspects. It means ensuring your suppliers have really strict measures for sensitive data access, prioritizing things like multi-factor authentication, encryption.
The basics, but rigorously applied.
Exactly. You need to really understand a supplier's user permission structure. Insist on audit trails so you can track who accesses crucial information.
Who did what?
Right. Evaluating their network security plans is vital. Robust backup strategies, including secure off-site storage, that's key too.
Planning for the worst.
You have to. Companies should also review what external entities their suppliers share data with. Make sure contracts uphold security standards down the line.
Another cascade to watch.
And finally, insisting on detailed data breach response plans from suppliers is really non-negotiable now, covering everything from early detection to proper communication and remediation.
So you know they have a plan if something does go wrong.
You need that assurance.
Wow. Okay. This really reinforces that a comprehensive, multifaceted approach to due diligence is absolutely crucial. It's not just one thing.
Not at all. It's crucial not just for ethical conduct and environmental protection, but for basic operational resilience and safeguarding your reputation in today's complex world.
It's about protecting every facet of your business, really.
It really is.
So we've taken quite a deep dive today into supply chain due diligence. We went from its ethical foundations and how its definition has evolved.
Right, from HRDD outwards.
To its practical implementation through that 5-element blueprint. And then the ever-growing web of regulations, like the German example, and risks, including that critical cybersecurity angle.
And I think, just to reiterate the core message, supply chain due diligence, SCDD, it's a systematic, ongoing process, not a one-off check.
Right, continuous.
Continuous. It's crucial for managing environmental, human rights, and yes, even cybersecurity impacts across your entire supply chain. It's about being proactive, truly understanding your whole value chain.
Mapping it out.
And continuously assessing and mitigating those risks. The goal is building transparent, accountable, and resilient operations.
So as you, our listener, reflect on this, maybe think about your own role. Whether you're involved in a large corporation, maybe a smaller business feeling those cascading effects, or even just as a conscious consumer making purchasing decisions. This stuff touches everyone.
It really does.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with, as supply chains become increasingly transparent, and they will, due to these evolving due diligence requirements, how might that shift things? Not just corporate behavior, but maybe the very fabric of global commerce and the choices you make as an individual every day.
Something to chew on.
Definitely something to chew on.